Good afternoon, folks. Thanks for joining us this afternoon on a Sunday. And we have some exciting discussions today with Shiva Subramaniam, who is the CIO or the Chief Innovation Officer at the Gopal Krishna Deshpande Center. And he's also a certified thinking specialist with certification on the Edward de Bono's 6 Thinking Hats. And he's also currently engaged with understanding how biomimicry works and systems thinking. So he's a and by in his former profession he was a lawyer. So he comes with a different background, and which allows us to think wide and beyond the structured engineering thought process we all have. So I welcome Shiva to take us through about thinking skills that is useful for entrepreneurs and how we can apply to our own journey. Shiva?
Yeah. Thanks, Satya. It's always a pleasure working with you. Um, I I still think that whenever the last 2 years at least since I know you, whenever I think I need to float or I need to explore a new idea, I come to you. And the good thing about Satya, I'm sure many of you have realized, is Satya has never said no to an idea till now, which is uh, which is very which is very welcome. So I'm going to start straight away. See, the whole point today is that I don't know whether the topic is. I'm not saying I don't know, but I really want a lot of interaction, because I'll tell you why. I have not made this presentation at all till now. So when Satya asked me to make, when Satya was speaking to me about today, I think on Thursday or Wednesday he spoke, and we spoke about the 6 Thinking Hats, and we spoke about thinking skills, and we spoke about communication and all that. So I started working on that, right? And then I started working on that, and while doing that, I said, why am I limiting myself to one particular tool? The 6 Thinking Hats is a very nice tool, of course, but why? So I started thinking about what do entrepreneurs need by way of thinking, and then I came to the realization that that what entrepreneurs need is lots and lots of thinking. So in a way, I'm going to be little rebellious now and go to the last slide first. I'm going to the last slide. So it's very strange, but this is what it is. So essentially, I'm saying, this is my last slide, okay? This is my last slide. In the last slide, I'm saying this. There is no finally for thinking to an entrepreneur, and you can never finish thinking. So there is nothing called final, and you cannot start without thinking. So what are we learning? We are learning that thinking encompasses our entire entrepreneurial journey, right? So the question is why? Why is it taking us so long to think about thinking? Of course, the villain is, of course, always the curriculum. And there is no curriculum in a school or a college or a university to learn thinking as a skill. None of us, if there is one of you who has learned it as a skill, please let me know. I would love to come and meet your correspondent. But none of us have formally sat down and learned thinking. And it shocks me. It shocks me to realize that we are learning about entrepreneurship, we are thinking about entrepreneurship, we are becoming entrepreneurs without understanding thinking. How can it be? How can it be? Can any of you, any one of you dispute what I'm saying? So therefore, in the last Wednesday to Thursday, Friday, Saturday, I have been breaking my head saying, because I'm seeing an opportunity here, right? And all of us here are in a way opportunists. I'm seeing an opportunity here to take this all over the world. Because I'm saying, I have been teaching in GDC, I have been teaching for the last, many of you know, Dhaireshil, I saw his name there. I have been teaching business model canvas, I have been teaching customer discovery, I have been teaching lean, I have been teaching Eric Ries, I have been teaching Steve Blank, everything. But I'm saying, how can I teach all that without letting people know how to think? And that is why I'm very passionate that every one of you must participate, because what we are participating in is not a presentation. What we are participating is a revolution to look at entrepreneurship. And I really want us to think about this. Why are we learning something without learning how to think? I want many of you at the end of this program to call me, to write to me and Satya and say, can we start a company on thinking? Can we teach thinking as a skill? Can we make people start to think? And thinking is common across the world, right? Whether you're a student or you're a parent or you're a grandfather, grandmother, employee, entrepreneur, thinking has to become a way of life. And that is my opening lines for today. So therefore, my first one is, what is thinking? Thinking is the action of using one's mind to produce thoughts. Fine, thank you. But it's not as simple as it is, right? The action of using. So therefore, we learn, there are two words we are learning. One is the word mind and the other word is the word thoughts. And so it's getting us somewhere. I'm not sure where, but it's getting us somewhere. Then what are the types of thinking? So this has become my favorite now. I can't. I'm learning this. Okay, I'm learning this. So don't scream at me if I'm not able to complete my entire learning on systems thinking. I'm learning it for the last 1 month now. I'm learning it formally. Again, if you're interested, I'll tell you where I'm learning it from. There's a lovely institute called the Waters Institute, which teaches systems thinking. And I'm wondering again, how can we do anything in this world without understanding systems thinking? So what is systems thinking? Systems thinking is heap versus system. What is the meaning of heap versus system? There are two systems. There are two things that we see in front of us. A heap, right? What is a heap? A heap is full of, I take a lot of stones and wood and mud and all that. I create a heap, right? Now, if you take out one small stone from that heap, does anything happen to the heap? Nothing happens. It may become one stone less, that's all. But on the other hand, a system is completely different. A system is interconnected. My body is a system. If I take out one part of my body, the entire body dies. Can you imagine the thinking that we are thinking about? Can you even start, for instance, every time you buy because I am learning so much system thinking. Today I got some apples. The minute you buy apples in your house, you will have to understand the entire system of that apple, right? Where the apple, the connection of the apple comes from the retailer. The retailer takes it from the wholesaler. The wholesaler takes it from the middleman. The middleman takes it from the farmer. The farmer takes it from the ground. The ground picks it up from the water and everything. So can you see the connection between one apple that you buy and finally the farming that happens? And if one of these is absent, you don't get the apple to your house. And that's why I think this is such an important thing. A system is an interconnected set of elements that is coherently organized. So don't worry about all this. Just look at the first 4 words. A system is an interconnected set of elements. That's it. And therefore, what are you learning? You're learning that it has got a lot of elements. The body has a lot of elements. It's got the heart, it's got the liver, it's got the hands, it's got the nerves, it's got the brain. Now, all these are elements, but all of them are connected. All right. So look at this. A football team, that the coach, players, ball, fields are all elements of the system, and they're all interconnected to achieve goals like win games, make millions of dollars. So therefore, when you look at the team, yesterday we started the Bundesliga, right? So when you look at the Bundesliga today, look at this example. Of course, now there is no audience, but doesn't matter. You'll find the coach, the player, the ball, the field, everything there. The referee, the organizing committee, everything. And if one of them is not there, there is no match. Can you see the importance of what we are learning? Can you see the direction in which we are going now? A school is a system. So many of you who is building an enterprise, I know Dhairashil is talking about transport, right? Dhairashil? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, I can hear you. Yes.
Yeah, so you're talking about a transport, right?
Yeah.
So you're talking about transport, right?
Yes.
So therefore, there's a system there, right? Who are the people in your world of transport, Dhairashil?
Sir, are you talking about our customer persona or?
No, no,
The
no. Why are you
organization
saying
people.
persona? Yeah, I'm talking about your business.
Okay.
So what
So
I just said, you relate it to your own business, and what are the connections in your business?
so there are like we have our end user,
Very good one.
which is a daily commuter, and there comes like the product goes to him, and there are a lot of people in the supply chain.
Yeah,
So
and
like it starts from battery manufacturer, cell manufacturer, the
very good.
assembler,
Yes.
the welder. So all these people gets involved to take out product and give it to our end user.
And also you have the road, the guy who makes the road, right?
Yes.
And you also have the government which gives you permission.
Yeah, exactly.
And you also have the physics of the whole thing. You also have the fuel, the petrol, the Indian Oil Company, everybody, right?
Yes.
All of you are connected. That's what we're talking about. So therefore, look at this. Now, this is a beautiful classic example of systems thinking. Now, this is a story of the blind men. When they touch the elephant, they look at it only in a part, right? They say one person says it's a wall, one person says it's a fan, one person says it's a spear, it's a snake, it's a tree, it's a rope, because they're all looking at one single portion of the elephant. But does that make an elephant? No. So what is systems thinking is putting all the parts together and making one elephant. So if you're an entrepreneur, you are going to be very upset with yourself if you're going to look only at customers. You can't just look only at customers, because what is customers? Customers is just one part of the system. In your world, in the world of the entrepreneur, everything is connected. So if you don't go to the market one day, if you don't study the market, that affects your customer discovery, and then you start to understand. So my next look at my next picture. Look at this. Look at the human body. We are living systems, right? All of us are living systems. There is the integumentary system. I just learned that it's about the skin, right? The skeletal system, the muscular system, the nervous system, the endocrine system, cardiovascular system, lymphatic, respiratory, digestive, urinary, reproductive. And each of these individuals have a system, right? The brain has a system. The nerves have a system. The muscles have a system. And all of them connected, interconnected. And one man or one woman is connected to other people. And all of us are connected to the world. And the world is connected to the universe. Can you see the connections now? You know, I know that I'm coming across as extremely passionate, but tell me, what choice do I have other than being passionate and saying, unless we learn systems thinking, you can't tell yourself you are learning entrepreneurship, because you will have to be able to see the system. So now the next question is completely interaction. Now look at this. Okay, this is the business model canvas. Can you see the connections now? Can you see, many people, I don't know, even Dhairashil, I think, after you did this program with the GDC, I don't know whether you completed all the blocks of the BMC. Unless you complete all the blocks, if you're going to look at only customer segment and value proposition, how will you even run a business if you don't look at the partners and then see the connections, okay? Look at the connection between customer segment and value proposition. If the customer doesn't agree with your value that you're offering, then you need to change your value to suit the customer. The minute you change your value, what happens? Your relationship changes. The minute you change your relationship, the channels change. The minute you change your channel, your revenue changes, and the cost changes, and resources. Everything in the system is interdependent on each other. And if you can learn it like that, you don't have to learn any other program except systems thinking. So next question is this one. I want to know from you, what are the connections that an entrepreneur builds, or the entrepreneurship connection, if I may use the word. What is the world of the entrepreneur? Where are the connections? What are the connections? I need an answer from each one of you, because you must participate. If you're not going to participate, I might as well not do anything, because I'm not doing it for me. I'm doing it for you guys, right? So I need participation from you. I need you to think about all the connections in an entrepreneurship model, or in an entrepreneurship system. Go ahead, start. 1, 2, 3. I'm going to write down the things that you say. What are the connections?
Hello?
Yeah, go
Hello,
ahead,
am I
speak up.
audible?
Yes.
Yeah. So like one of the interconnection we can seek is the collaboration. Let's say
Okay.
like there are two, three companies in edtech sector. Not necessarily they should be competitors of each other. They could
Uh,
collaborate and then they can build a bigger picture
okay.
or
Collaboration is
solve a
one.
problem in better way. Yeah.
Okay. One. Then two. Who is an entrepreneur connected to?
The
Uh,
Okay.
customer.
Sir, this is
Connected to
Dereshil.
the middle of the world, and who are you all connected to?
Sir, an entrepreneur is always connected to his mentor, I believe,
Okay. One is mentor.
because yeah,
Then two. Two. I got two. I need about 10. I need 10 connections.
Connection to their customers.
Customer. Very good. Thank you. Customers. Then three. I got three.
Who's team? Team.
Connection to the team members.
Excellent. Four. Team members. Then
his ideas and vision about the
excellent.
company.
Ideas about the something is always connected to the idea. That's the genesis of the entrepreneurship. Brilliant. Five.
The problem is solving. He or she.
Excellent. The problem that you're trying to solve. Not only the solution, the problem too. Six. I got six. I need four more. Go ahead.
the value he or she is delivering to his customer.
Okay. Value. Eight. I need two, three more.
To all kinds of indirect stakeholders that involves in the system.
Yeah, good, good. I love the word you used. Who is this?
Current here, sir.
Karan, I love the word you used about stakeholders. So who are the other stakeholders?
Let's say in our part of mobility, the let's say automobile manufacturers is a part of stakeholders.
Excellent.
In fact,
Manufacturer, then
in an extension, even the oil companies happen to be a negative stakeholders in this case.
very good. Oil companies, the government,
The government, the policymakers,
yeah,
even the miners
policymakers,
for mining the lithium material for batteries, electric vehicles,
very good.
batteries.
Yeah, thanks, very good. The miners, because if they don't mine, you can't get the battery.
Exactly.
The corporates who own the miners, I got 13 connections. Now, I want Dhairashil and Karan to stop speaking, please, and anyone else. Because Dhairashil connection, I know them very well, so they will have that familiarity with me, but anyone else, please. Look at yourself in the middle of the sea, of the ocean, and what are the islands you see around you? And those islands are also connected to each other. Picture yourself in the middle of the ocean, and what are the things you see around you as an entrepreneur? Other than water, of course.
Investors, the one who is ready to invest in us.
Who said that? Who said that?
Rakesh.
Rakesh, great, Rakesh. Investors, very good. See, if you don't connect your investors, if you don't look at your investors as a connection, you are going to be making something while that guy is not even, he doesn't even know that you're making it. Brilliant. I got 14. I thought 10. I got 14. Very good. I'm really delighted about this. Of course, I would also say the system, you're also connected to, for instance, in GDC, you'll be connected to the lean. If you Satya and I do another program called Discipline Entrepreneurship, there you'll be connected to a different education, right? You're also connected to your team members, you're connected to the faculty, you're connected to the profits, you're connected to your employees. And suddenly you're saying, it's almost as if you have 40, 50, 70 of yourselves. There are 40 Rakeshes, there are 40 Dhairashils, and suddenly the whole world starts to open up to you. I'm going to stop now because I just want to introduce these thinking skills, but I want you to ask yourself now, right? I want you to ask yourself, how is it possible for you not to learn systems thinking? You don't have to answer it. So I'm hoping that Satya and I will soon arrange for you to maybe 1.5 hours. I'll just do systems thinking alone, nothing else, because there are so many things to learn. You go to the Waters Center, watercenter.org, and there you'll find there are 14 habits of a systems thinker. And then there are 14 habits. There are 10 tools for systems thinking. There's a brilliant book by Peter Senge called The Fifth Discipline, and you have the principles and the rules and all that, and suddenly your whole life changes, your perspective changes. Any questions? Any questions on systems thinking?
Sir, what is the website which you recommended, sir?
Waters Institute for Systems Thinking or something. Just go to Waters Institute. WATERS.
Okay, sir.
Who is this?
Rakesh.
Hey, Rakesh, what you do after you go to the website, just send me a WhatsApp, okay?
Okay, sir. Okay.
I'll find out if you have done. And if you want to learn it together, I would love to learn it with you.
Sure, sir.
Yeah. Anyone else? Any other question? I want you to ask one question, please. One question?
Question.
Give me one more example of a system. We learned about body, we learned about football, we learned about a school, we learned about entrepreneur. One more example of a system.
Sir, hospital.
Brilliant. Hospital. Your own family. Your own family. Your father, mother, brother. All of you are a system. Your neighbors are a system. Your neighborhood is a system. Your world is a system. You and other countries are a system. And tell me, why is it that we don't learn this? Why are we not doing it?
There are system under system. Right?
Brilliant. Systems within a system.
Yes. Subsystems.
Look at the human body. The brain and the heart are connected, but the brain itself has so many connections. And you know what? That's why I said I want to learn it with all of you together, because there's a brilliant thing I'm learning. See, I've been teaching creativity for what, 20 years of my life? But last week, I learned something very powerful, saying maybe the way I'm teaching creativity is wrong, because I'm forgetting to teach unintended consequence. That's part of systems thinking. Whenever you create something, you also create consequences. Many times the unintended consequence is negative. For instance, we discovered oil 100 years ago. Can you imagine the unintended, when we created oil, we never thought we would get into trouble, right? And today look at the problem we have, only because of oil. So that's an unintended consequence. So when you're creating something, ask yourself what could be the long-term, short-term consequences of what you are creating. So Dhairashil and Karan may say we are creating transportation. Great, super. But what could be the consequences? That is what makes you a very good systems thinker. Okay. So can I go to the next skill of thinking? Satya, you're okay, right? Satya?
Yeah. Please go ahead, Shiva. That's wonderful.
Okay, so can I go to the next skill?
Yes, go ahead, please.
Yeah. So next skill is empathic. This is my favorite subject. All of you know that. If you know me at all now, you know that this is my favorite thinking skill. Empathic thinking is the ability to sense other people's emotions coupled with the ability to imagine what someone else might be thinking or feeling. In very simple words, empathy is to put yourself in someone else's shoes. So therefore, the question is, how does entrepreneurship and empathy fit together? Refers to our ability to identify and understand other people's emotions. Now it's clear, right, as to why, if you're an entrepreneur, you must have empathy. If you don't have empathy, you are making something where the customer doesn't want. If you have empathy, you understand what the customer wants and make it according to his need and want. Imagine making a transport system without taking into consideration whether the customer really, without understanding the customer. If all the customers don't want to travel by bikes, only want to travel by cars, you get into the shoes and they look at the world from their point of view and say, I only want to travel in a car. You have a problem. Take Tata Nano, for instance. I have been an employee of Tata Consultancy Services 20 years. But Tata Nano has been one of the biggest problems because as far as cars were concerned, the empathy, the understanding of the customer was customers want luxury cars. They don't want the cheap car. Right? So this is just a cartoon for empathy. Because this man is telling the dog, you don't understand what it is to be a human being, because the dogs apparently don't. By the way, empathy is a skill that every one of us has. A 2-day-old child will cry because the child next to the child is crying. He doesn't know why the child is crying, but it cries. So all of us, many of you who've been in my creativity programs, you know that the first 1 week we do what is called an empathy walk, where we go around the campus looking for problems to solve. So people have put themselves in the shoes of the watchman, people have put themselves in the shoes of the hospital staff, people have put themselves in the shoes of the people waiting in a hospital, people have put themselves in the shoes of students in a mess, and suddenly you start to discover new ideas for entrepreneurship. So if you find a problem, empathy is the tool for you. The minute you put yourself in someone's shoes, you start to look at the world from his point of view. And empathy and innovation, empathy and problem definition go hand in hand. Look at this. Okay? Someone calling themselves a customer says they want something called service. So you don't understand what a customer is, you don't understand what is service, and you're offering a business. So I can go on and on and on in empathy. I would love to have 1.5-hour session with you just on empathy alone, or even more, because I'm learning that you can actually empathize with non-living things. I can empathize with a fan. I can empathize with a fan to understand how fans work. I can empathize with trees. I can empathize with animals. The problem with empathy is it's not so difficult to get into someone's shoes. It's very difficult to get out of your own shoes. I'm going to repeat it. The problem with empathy is that it's not difficult to get into someone else's shoes. It's very difficult to get out of your own shoes. So when you get into someone else's shoes, take off your own shoes, please. Empathy helps you understand the other person's point of view. Empathy understands perspective and all that. Now, questions for you. What are the opportunities for empathic thinking in entrepreneurship? I need answers. I'm going to write it down like last time. I need answers, please. Where can you use empathy in entrepreneurship?
So the very first thing is, like you said, identifying the problem itself. So that is the first thing.
Can you tell me your name?
Sir, Rakesh.
Rakesh. Okay. Why only Rakesh will speak, isn't it? Identifying the problem, customer shoes. Very good. Nice. Okay. Then?
Sustainability.
I'm sorry?
Sustainability.
No. The question I'm asking is, who are the shoes that you can get into when you're an entrepreneur? What are the choices for shoes? One is the customer's shoes. Who are the other people you can get into their shoes of?
Investors.
Investors' shoes. Brilliant. Excellent. Investors. So you get into the investors' shoes, look at the problem. So who said that?
Sai Charan.
Who said that?
Sai Charan.
Okay, Sai Charan, you said something beautiful. Now, if you get into the investor's shoes, what happens? The presentation you're making right now, whose presentation are you making? You're making a presentation from your point of view. And so when the investor sees your presentation, he doesn't understand. But if you get into the shoes of the investor and look at the world from his point of view, can you imagine how your presentation can change? And thereby, the feelings of the investor for your presentation changes. Can you see the power of empathy now? Right? Very good. Investors. Who else? I need 5 more. I got 2.
Sir, competitors.
Very good. So empathize, get into his shoes. Very good. Competitor. Then?
Vendors.
I'm sorry? Hello?
Employees.
Excellent. Employees. Wow. Then go ahead. I'm getting excited.
Vendors.
Huh?
Vendors.
Excellent.
Vendors. The vendors who actually supply for you.
Excellent. Vendors who supply to you. Wow. Look at it from their point of view. Who else? Come on, think. What are the shoes available to you? Yeah, think like that. It's simple. You are an entrepreneur in the middle of the ocean, in the middle of the world. What are the shoes available to you? Who are the shoes you see? You see the customer's shoes, you see the investor's shoes, you see the employee's shoes, you see the vendor's shoes. What are the other shoes you see? I'm sorry?
Hello, sir. This is Vishnu. Yeah. Hello, sir. My name is Vishnu. Yeah, I think all those people who are interconnected in the system, we can get in all those people's shoes.
Brilliant. Brilliant. You can also get into your family's shoes, because your family may be saying, don't be an entrepreneur because you must get a job. Well, you want to be an entrepreneur in your heart. So for a minute, empathize with your father. Empathize with your mother. Because empathy is not about agreeing with the other person. Empathy is looking at the world from his point of view. Look at the power. Look at the change. Look at the difference. Right? Just because I become my father does not mean I'm agreeing with him. So if you get into your family's shoes, you start to understand why are they worried about you being an entrepreneur. So then it starts to give you new ideas, right? You say, okay, you tell your father, you know what? You want me to get a job? Great, soup. I will try and get a job from Monday to Friday, but don't disturb me on Saturday and Sunday. I'm going to do this business. And your father is happy. Then you earn some money, collect some money, pay for the rent and all that. 2 years you work, you're back to entrepreneurship year 3, and you've not lost sight of your entrepreneurship goals too. So sometimes this world, all it requires are proper tools. That's all it requires. We think we are getting into trouble. There is no trouble at all. We simply are lazy and don't use tools. Excellent. So I'm going to, Satya, can I go to the next one?
Yeah, Shiva, you continue on. Yes.
Okay. So
Sorry, can I just interrupt here for a minute? Shiva, this is excellent what you said about
Who's speaking,
people's
please?
shoes. Hi, sorry, I'm Jayapriya.
Hi, Jayapriya.
Yeah, so here we spoke about several people. Most of the time we forget to think about the government regulators.
Very
And
good.
when you
Yes.
scale up to a certain extent, the reason why they are asking certain things to be filed in a certain time and all, you'll understand only when we get into their shoes, right? I mean, that also
Very good.
helps in a way.
Yeah, absolutely great. Super. So, yeah, unless, because otherwise you won't understand why he's hustling you, right? Because he has to finish his job. He has to make that bureaucratic decision. So you can be very upset with him, but he has to go and report to somebody else. He has to finish his job. So if you don't cater to the form that he wants you to fill up, if you don't fill up every we are so lazy to fill up forms, right? But if you don't fill up the form, that guy is going to get fired by his boss. He's saying, "What is this nonsense? You haven't even filled up a form." So that's how. Who was that? Priya, right?
Yeah, Jayapriya, yes.
Hi, Jayapriya. Yes, thanks. Hi, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good. How are you? Thanks.
Yeah, fine.
Nice. I'm finally catching up with your presentation. I'm really enjoying that.
Okay, thank you. So now I'm a little embarrassed. I'm a little embarrassed talking about empathy for 10 minutes, talking about systems thinking for 10 minutes. But I'm hoping that we will never again become entrepreneurs unless we do thinking. And I'm hoping that Satya and I will be able to design a complete program around each of these skills. All right? Satya, you think it's a good idea to do that?
Absolutely, Shiva. I think we should work on it.
Yes.
Hello, sir. I have a doubt actually.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm Suraj.
Yeah.
I think in business we have to make what customer buy, not what customer want. How we can shift this shoe?
It's not customer want. We're talking about here, Siraj, just concentrate on the skill right now. The skill is getting into his shoes. Okay?
Okay.
Don't go beyond that right now. Now, unless you get into the customer's shoes, look at the world from his point of view, you will not be able to think for the customer on behalf of the customer.
Okay, sir. Okay.
That's all. So right now, learn it in a very simple way. Put yourself in the customer's shoes. Look at yourself from the point of view of the customer. Because once you okay, if I had to, I don't want to complicate it, but anyway, since you asked. Now, how will you make a hypothesis that this is what the customer wants unless you become the customer, right? Suppose they're making school bags. Unless you become the school child, how will you make a bag that the child likes?
Yeah,
So,
I got the point.
so don't go beyond that right now. Okay, become an empathic person. Now you're learning empathy. For the next 2 weeks, practice empathy, and then slowly you'll start to unearth the many secrets that empathy holds for you.
So okay, sir.
Yeah. I don't know, many of you have seen that video. There was a IIT alumni 2008 batch who made this device to keep babies warm. I forgot the name of that device. He came and spoke to us also. In India, not only India, all over the world, poor mothers who deliver babies cannot afford the what is that called? The baby has to be kept warm, right? For some time, the baby is very small and weak.
It's called incubator.
Yeah. So now with 2008, I forgot his name. They actually made a very, very inexpensive incubator simply by using empathy. Go back to the example of Muruganandam, right? All of you have. I must have shown you that video millions of times. The man who made the sanitary napkin. Now, if we look at him, I wish I could share the TED video, but I'll share it sometime. If you look at Muruganandam's story, he did not go beyond 8th standard. 8th standard, okay? 8th standard in India is not even fit for being a mechanic. But then suddenly I don't know where he got this idea from. He saw his wife hiding something from him. When he asked her, "What are you hiding?" she wouldn't tell him what she was hiding. And then he found out that during her menstruation, she was using cloth. And then he put himself in his wife's shoes because they couldn't afford a sanitary napkin. He put himself in his wife's shoes, and I don't know whether you're listening to me, but if you're listening to me, it's going to make you cry. He put himself in his wife's shoes and asked himself, how do I feel when I'm going through my menstruation, when I don't have any protection? And he took a football bladder, filled it with goat's blood, tied it on his stomach, and went around for 5 days asking himself, how does a woman sleep? How does a woman walk? How does a woman cycle? How does a woman do all the things she does during menstruation? At the end of 5 days, he came up with a sanitary napkin, and then he empathized with the very poor woman and said she can't afford a napkin which costs $100 for 3 or 4, and then he made that inexpensive napkin for 1 rupee. Today, he's built an empire. When he came to IIT Madras, he came with about 10 people who were all MBA graduates who were interns. Now, that's not the important thing. The important thing is, where did empathy take him? So here, you're looking at an opportunity. You're looking at something that's staring you in the face, that's looking at something that's so easy, but we don't practice. That's the inspiration for empathy. The next thinking skill is intuition. Now, this is where I'll have difficulty with all of you, because all of you are engineers and you will not accept intuition. You will not accept, because intuition is knowing a situation without specific data. All of you are talking about data. Engineering is about data. Engineering is evidence, data, evidence. I'm here telling you, there is a brilliant skill out there. There's a brilliant thinking skill out there which doesn't need data. But then I'm sorry, I have to disappoint you, because that's what it is. Analytic reasoning is not part of the intuitive process. So where is your intuition as an engineer? Where is the role of intuition in engineering? Where is the role of intuition in business? Where is the role of intuition in entrepreneurship? Because what is intuition? Intuition is this one. Intuition is a hunch. Intuition is the gut feeling. So intuition is an additional tool, a powerful asset. Intuition is not verifiable. You cannot verify it. You cannot find out if the intuition is right or wrong. It's not a guess, okay? It's not a guess. You need to be access. You need to have access in this, in the sense that just like you do analysis, you need to say there is some part of the brain which is not doing thinking. Right? Blink is a lovely book by who? You want by Blink by? You got Blink.
I think it's Malcolm Gladwell.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Malcolm Gladwell. Actually, the title of the book, the logo of the book is Blink is Thinking Without Thinking. So, for instance, Sachin, when Sachin Tendulkar has a lot of intuition as to what the next ball, he says, when I spoke to him some time ago, he said he knows what the next ball is going to be. He knows the next ball is going to be a bouncer. How? I don't know how. Seriously, I don't know. Because intuition cannot be explained. There are a lot of scientific data on intuition. That's not what we're interested in now. If you want, I'll send it to you on WhatsApp. You can find out. But that's not something you should be bothered about. I think most of you understand intuition. Intuition is something that doesn't happen through analysis. Intuition is something that I'm going in a car, okay? I'm going at 100 miles per hour. My friend is next to me and he's saying, Shiva, what are you going so fast for? And I'm going fast, very fast, and suddenly I play the brake. The minute I play the brake, a truck whizzes past me. And my friend is feeling a sigh of relief and he says, how did you know there was a truck in front of you? I say, I don't know. Something told me. Something told me. What is that something told me in entrepreneurship? What is that something told me about the customer? What is that something told me about your choice of value? What is the something that told you about your idea? What is the something told you about how much money that you should charge for your product? What is the something told you about who you should meet today and who you should not meet today? What is the something told you about the methodology you should follow? And that is what we're talking about. We're talking about a very powerful tool, very, very powerful tool, which most of us ignore simply because we're engineers. It doesn't come to analysis. We're thinking. So when you're in front of the customer, you're wondering whether there is, there's this chance of him accepting your solution and all that. It's not observable, only effects are felt like a breeze, right? And intuition can be wrong. That's the brilliant thing about intuition. Intuition can be wrong, intuition can be right. Many times my mother used to say, something tells me that, when my father used to come, he's come at 5 o'clock, and then whenever he was late, he will say, I'm very worried. Maybe he's got with an accident. Now that's what intuition, that's your fear, intuition. My father, of course, never got into an accident, but my mother constantly was intuitive about my father's safety. And she was wrong most of the time, but that's her intuition. That's what we're learning. So the question now is entrepreneurship. I need your answers now. Where can you use intuition in entrepreneurship? Where can you use non-analysis in entrepreneurship, if I may use the word? Go ahead, please. I need 5 things. Where is the opportunity for intuition in entrepreneurship? Intuition, gut feeling.
We can have intuition over what the customer would want.
Yeah. Need of the customer, right? Okay. Without analysis, what else?
While taking urgent decisions, sometimes urgent situations pop up. So we need to be very decisive at that time.
Brilliant. So sometimes we have to take. Actually, you said something wonderful. By the way, Kahneman, I think Kahneman, the Nobel Prize winner, in his book Thinking Fast, Thinking Slow, he actually says the same thing. He says when very quick decisions are needed, you are intuitive. Analysis is because there's a lot of time to think. When there's no time to think, intuition is a good idea. Brilliant. Anything else? Intuition. Come on, come on, come on. Think investor. Think investor. Come on, yeah. Think investor. I'm giving you a clue.
Investing on some product, or like investing on some idea, like giving your time for that idea.
Very good. Yeah. Also, no, I'm talking about thinking investor. When you're standing in front of the investor and making your presentation, you might have an intuition this guy doesn't like you, right? Can it happen or not?
Yeah.
Hello? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all I'm talking. That's also I'm talking about. Apart from what you said, what else? Where else can you use intuition?
Any situation which involves negotiation, there is
Very
a
good.
part of intuition that is at work, right?
Excellent. So therefore, you have quoted a price, and you're hoping that you just quoted a price without any basis, right? And why did you quote the price? Because you sort of felt that this should be accepted. Very good. Where else?
Like in uncertain times, like present time, investors may work by intuition that in where to invest.
Very good. So investors use a lot of intuition. Very good. Nice. So if I'm an investor, I will use an intuition saying, Dhairashil's idea may work. I'm not sure. I think it will work. He doesn't know. He's just presenting there. He's just looking at Dhairashil. But how does he know it will work? He's not done any analysis. And he has to make a quick decision, because if he doesn't invest money, there's another investor waiting outside. Excellent. One more, please, before we go to the next skill. Come on. What about think teammates, think team members? Intuition.
While recruiting new teammates, while recruiting employees, in one interview we don't have enough data, so we have to go with intuition.
Excellent, because I tell you, this is where HR struggles. Okay, HR in every company struggles, because many times when I used to be TCS, I think you know that, right? So in TCS we used to be recruitment. Now there are 5 candidates, okay, and all of them brilliant qualifications. One of them may not have the same qualification. Many times we go in for that guy because we say something tells us that this guy is good. He doesn't present himself very well, but something tells you, intuition, to choose team members. Sometimes you're wrong, sometimes you're right. Do I have a final one before I go next one?
Sir, I would like to expand the final point even more, not just team members, basically selecting people in our life whom we want to keep or not. So we have to many times go with intuition.
Who, Karan, is it with this?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Karan, you said life. I have one. Not only that, when even life partner, intuition sometimes works, doesn't work. Most of the time it doesn't work, Karan. Sorry.
Okay.
No. I'm talking about Okay. Very good. So 3 things we learned: systems thinking, intuition, and empathy.
Empathy.
Yeah. So this one, why are we ignoring this? Yeah. Why are we ignoring this one? Tell me, no. I don't understand. Why are we ignoring imagination? How many of us have sat down and imagined our business? Because imagination and visualization go together. I sit down and visualize. I say, what will my business be 10 years from now? I have that power. Sitting at my desk, I have the power to visualize everything I want. And the beauty about visualization is, when you see the picture already in front of you, you can actually build the scenario. I can build the scenario for next week. I can build the scenario for next year. I can build the scenario for the next 10 years and correct myself, add, subtract. But I wonder, because look at the definition of imagination. The act or power of forming a mental image of something not present to the senses or never before wholly perceived. Can you imagine? I don't understand why is it that we are ignoring this completely? How many of you as entrepreneurs have sat down and said, don't disturb me for the next half an hour. I'm going to imagine my business. Unfortunately, because my firm belief is if something hasn't been invented, it is because it has not been imagined. I'm repeating that sentence, and this is my quote. You can pay me for the quote later on. If something has not been invented, it has not been imagined. So therefore, suddenly we are learning, what the hell, there's this great tool that we have, but we are not using it. Why are we living on land? Because you know why? Because we haven't imagined houses under the sea. It's the most ideal thing for a hot climate like ours, right? To live under the sea. Why have we not imagined it? Because we don't believe in imagination. So my question therefore is, so look at this. Every one of us watches cartoons, right? Every one of these characters is imaginary. Look at the power that we have. So when I forgot to, I'm sorry, I forgot to add visualization. But again, I can do a 2-hour workshop for you guys only for imagination, and you will see the power of imagination. So now question is, opportunities for imagination. Go ahead, please. What can you do with imagination in your business? Where can you use it? Come on. You know what's imagination, right?
So you can imagine, so Mahesh here, you can imagine scenarios like why would a company be needing a lot of cash reserves, like Infosys imagining a lot ahead. Now that they have cash reserves, they can retain a lot of their employees. So they had imagined these kind of scenarios. So this is one of the area that we can apply.
So the only thing I would remember is imagination is not analysis. Okay. So if you go back to the definition, the power of forming a mental image of something not present to the senses. Right now, it's not available to you. Okay. Is that okay, Mahesh?
Yeah, yes, sir.
Yeah. So you can imagine if you have only 5 employees now, you can imagine your company with 100,000 employees having branches all over the world. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead. Anyone else? Imagination. Where does it play a part in entrepreneurs?
So we can imagine the impact of product we bring in the world, which will actually motivate us to go for.
Very good.
Like presently our product behind him, and we create across the picture. It's based on the imagination, like we watch the science fiction movies where people without hands are given robotic hands. So that's exactly what we're trying to do. So we can imagine the impact.
Excellent. Anyone else? Satya, I'm sorry, just for check on time. 4:30 I stop, right, Satya?
Yes, Shiva.
Okay. I got half an hour more. Anyone else on imagination, please?
Sir, Dherishil here. You
Yeah.
can imagine a customer using your product and he is so happy with it.
Not necessarily happy there, Ishil. You can imagine a customer using your product. Very good. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, because the minute you say happy, you're narrowing your mind, right? You can imagine the emotion of a customer using your product. Very good. Nice. Yeah, because it's not available to you. It's not yet available to you. Very good, Ishil. Thank you. What else? Anyone else? One more, and then we go to the next one.
Drawback of your product or service.
What of your product?
Drawback of your product or service.
Yeah, but be careful. Don't do analysis. Just imagination. Just visualization. Right?
Yeah.
It can go wrong. It's a little dicey. Okay, this topic. You have to understand. You can't get analysis in your head. Imagination is letting your thinking go free, completely free. I imagine living on Mars. I imagine living in the stars. I imagine flying. For instance, when Da Vinci created his flying machine in 500 years ago. 500 years ago, okay, you must learn. I have this book called How to Think Like Da Vinci. 500 years ago, he created a machine. He drew what is called a flying machine. That is the classic example of imagination for you. 500 years ago, a man sits down and draws the drawings like an engineer for a flying machine when there was no idea of flying. So can you imagine your product 10 years from now, 100 years from now? Can you imagine a product that will be useful for the world 500 years from now? Can you imagine how IIT Madras will happen 50 years from now? These are all practice sessions by imagination. Can you imagine Nirmaan 100 years from now? Can you imagine how families will be 50 years from now? Can you imagine what your product will do maybe for young people? If your product is only for older people, can you imagine what it can do for younger people? Can you visualize what will happen? This is what we are learning. It's a skill that we cannot ignore. So go back to Da Vinci. I hope many of you Google Da Vinci's flying machine. And you'll be amazed at the intricacies, at the engineering that he brought in, at the detail that he brought in. And he had never even attended an aerospace class. He just used his imagination. That's all. And if he can imagine, you can imagine too, because all of us have imagination. Every skill I'm talking about, you don't have to go to college for this. You don't have to go to university. There is no degree. You learn it on your own because you have it already. Okay, observation. The meaning of observing is notice or perceive something and register it as being significant. That's the word here. The word is significant, right? Many times we see things, but we don't. We look at things, but we don't see them. A lot of difference. I have a beautiful book called "What You Don't." The book. The name of the book is "The Difference Between Looking and Seeing." And look at this. This is a classic example of observation. What do you see in this picture? Old woman or young woman? Or both?
Both.
Yeah. Okay, but you also see young woman alone, right?
Yes.
You also see old woman alone, right?
Yes.
So you see three pictures. There are three pictures here. The classic picture for observation. Look at this. What do you see? What do you see?
A man's head.
And?
A small child in a
Eskimo in front of a wall.
I'm sorry?
Eskimo in front of a wall.
Eskimo and?
Front of a wall.
No, I'm sorry. Eskimo and I didn't hear the second one.
Eskimo in front of a wall.
In front of a wall.
Yeah, and what else?
Shadow of a ghost, something like that.
That's a Red Indian headdress, yaar. The American Indian, right? The American Indian headdress. That's the headdress of the American Indian.
Yes,
yeah.
yes, yes.
Yeah. Why am I showing you all this? So because how many of you know Sherlock Holmes? Have you heard of Sherlock Holmes? Anyone?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, what's his basic characteristic? Sherlock Holmes is a great observer. He sees things that nobody sees. So you see the shoe and see the red mud on the shoe and say this guy is the murderer because the body was found in an area where there was red mud. There is some small piece of red mud sticking on a shoe, therefore he is the murderer. And that's what you're looking at. So what can you observe as an entrepreneur when you're walking in your customer's office, when you're talking to your customer, when you are talking to your team members? What are the opportunities for observation? Are you a good observer? To see, not observing as in noticing. Don't get into a brain function. Here is simply by seeing with the eye. So what are the 4 or 5 senses that you can use for seeing? What are the 4 or 5 senses you can use for seeing? Because seeing is not just the eyes, okay? The seeing is not just the eyes. I have again this book called How to Think Like Da Vinci. Test all your observation skills. I can observe with what? With my eyes, yes. I can also observe with my ear. I can observe with my nose. I can observe with my touch. I can observe with my taste. These are the 5 senses. So how are we using all the 5 senses when we are being entrepreneurs? That's the question. So when you walk into your customer's office, are you looking at the gadgets that he has? Are you looking at the employees? Are you looking at the canteen? Are you looking at what he's eating? Are you looking at his tie? And from that you can discern who is your customer. Right? When you're looking at the investor, how are you looking at? Are you seeing that he's in a hurry? Are you able to see those things? And this is called observing. It's a very difficult skill. Many of us don't spend time observing at all. But is there a question? Anyone else can tell me where is the scope for observation in entrepreneurship? I want to hear from you.
Yes, there are a lot of scope here, sir. Like first you can observe when your customer seems to be happy, when your customer seems to be sad or unhappy. So all those things, all those observations will help you a lot to clarify about your ideas.
Brilliant. So your observation helps you deduce, right?
Yeah, true.
Also the inflection of the voice. Who's speaking?
The Rakesh sir. Rakesh,
look, the inflection of the voice, Rakesh. When the customer is excited, when the customer is bored, see body language, I tell you again. I would love to talk to all of you about body language for on and on. If you are a good person who sees body language, okay, you can find out easily what people are doing. You know, there's a classic case of body language. Suppose you're standing in a room and you're talking to 2-3 people, and if one of them is bored with you, his shoe will point to the door. He'll be looking at you, but his shoe will be pointing to the door, thereby indicating that he wants to leave. And if you can sense that, in the customer, if you can sense that in the person, then you will stop speaking and say, okay, fine, I've finished. When people are looking at a watch, it means they're saying, I don't have any more time for you. I don't know how many of you are looking at the watch right now.
Yeah.
Yeah? So what have we learned? What have we learned up to now? Systems thinking.
Empathy. Yes. I'm thinking.
Intuition, imagination, observation.
Intuition, imagination,
observation.
Excellent. And the next skill is design thinking. You know, 2 years ago, I did this program on design thinking with Coursera, and this is again something that I don't know why we don't use it in our daily life. Look at this; it's so simple. A methodology for creative problem solving. That's all it is, and only 5 steps. And design thinking, let me tell you, it's not just for a product. It can be for a process. It can be for a service. The biggest mistake we make as entrepreneurs are that we think we must only make products. Why? You can be a product engineer. You can innovate on process, and the world wants process innovation, right? They want to cut down on processes right now. And you can innovate on service. Uber is a service. You can have Swiggy is a service. So, and look at the steps. Empathize. Again, it starts with empathy. So there is a Indian company called IDEO. I'm sure all of you learned about IDEO. So when suppose IDEO is a customer, you go to IDEO and IDEO says, why are you here? You say, I want to make a toothbrush. I'm sorry, I want to make a shoe. I want to make shoes. So IDEO says, fine. They say, okay, come back in about 2 weeks. And what they do, okay, if you go to the IDEO website, they actually hire observers. Can you believe someone giving you money just to observe? Now, one of you has to mute his system, please, because I'm not able to speak. Yeah. Okay, so what does IDEO do? IDEO tells you to come back in 2 weeks. He says, we'll come back. Then IDEO actually hires observers. You go to the IDEO website, you can get a job as an observer. So what do? You sit in a park. And your job is to observe shoes. Your job is to just observe shoes, how people wear them, children's shoes, men's shoes, women's shoes, old people's shoes, people tying their laces, shoes. For about 2 weeks, they only observe. And they put themselves in the shoes of the child, put themselves in the shoes of the older person, and they come out with ideas. And then they come to define the problem. They define the problem as, we want to make shoes that are comfortable during playing. We want to make shoes that will make noise so parents know that children are safe. I think you must have seen those shoes for children, like make bam, 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 noise, because it helps you understand the child is behind you. And then they do ideation. What are the different types of shoes that we can make? Leather shoes, shoes made of skin, shoes made of wood, shoes made of I don't know, whatever, ideate. And then they prototype that design. They make a small, they mimic the design, they make a small portion of the design, and they test the design. Then they call the customer. They call the customer again and say, we have got 5 models for you. Which one do you want? And that's what IDEO does. It's a design company. And this is the classic design process. Empathize, define, ideate, prototype, test. Can you ask for simpler things in life? And you can do this for your business. You can do it for process. You can do it for anything at all. And even if your idea is failing, you can go back, iterate, and go back to your empathy. Maybe your empathy was wrong. Maybe your define was wrong. Maybe your ideate was wrong. Don't worry about that. Go back to the process. Go back to the process till you succeed in your testing. Many times we rush to sell things without going through prototyping testing. Why? How will you succeed if you don't test? Okay, so design thinking, entrepreneurship. We got about 10 minutes more. And I got three more tools. Where will you apply design thinking and entrepreneurship? Any one of these processes. Where will you apply any one of these processes in entrepreneurship? Come on.
Well, for figuring out revenue streams, like who can be a consumer, who can be a payer, how can I make everyone satisfied and happy?
Very good. Which one will you use?
All
of them.
The ideation one, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Or you can use it as a process. I mean, ideally, it's used as one single process.
Yes.
Anyone else? One more, please. One more. Opportunities for design thinking.
Customer relationship management.
Excellent. So you start with empathizing with the customer, and then you go to define what could be a good relationship for him, and then ideate around the different types of relationships, and then prototype on particular. Very good. Nice. Okay. So I'm going to go to anyone wants to tell me what are the skills you have learned up to now. I do this. I'm sorry. This is my habit. Okay. I have to be able to go back to what all we learned before I go forward. So if one of you can help me, please. We started with what?
Systems thinking.
Next.
Empathic thinking.
Very good.
Then intuitive thinking.
Very good. Then
imaginative thinking.
Okay.
The Da Vinci way. Then observational thinking.
Okay.
And design thinking.
Very good. Who's speaking?
Current here, sir.
Current, you get a chocolate when I meet you next. Okay?
Yes, sure.
Okay. Thanks. Right. The next one is synthesizing. I don't know whether you guys have, I mean, I'm sure I made this presentation to you sometime. Synthesizing is, the meaning of synthesizing is mixing of different ideas to make something new. So that's what Satya started at the beginning. He said, I'm learning this new subject called biomimicry, which is a practice that learns from mimics. So again, biomimicry is it's very, very new. It's very new. If you want a presentation on biomimicry, I'd love to give it to you. Biomimicry is for ideas. You look at nature and you ask yourself, how does nature solve this problem? You'll be surprised to know that nature has already solved every one of the problems in the world. Already solved. All you've got to do is pick up the ideas from nature. But that is not synthesizing. Synthesizing is any idea. One idea, second idea, you intersect the idea to get a third idea. Synthesizing is joining two things, combining two things. That's what we're talking about. One of the practices of synthesizing is biomimicry. So this is a classic example of biomimicry. This man's name is Mick Pierce. He's an architect by choice, by profession. He was asked to build an air-conditioned, he was asked to build a building in Harare. Harare is one of the hottest places in the world. The only challenge he was given was, you can't use air conditioning. Imagine, you are an architect, you build a building, you build a mall, it's called the Eastgate Mall, look it up on Google. You are an architect, you're asked to build a building, and you're asked to build it in one of the hottest places in the world, and you're told no air conditioning. What will you do? You know what Mick Pierce, fortunately for us, Mick Pierce is not only an engineer, he's also he's also called ecologist. He was studying termites, and he found, I don't have that picture, I can send it to you. he looked at termite mounds. He looked at termite mounds and found out how termites build their houses in the desert. Now, termites don't have air conditioning. I don't know whether how many of you have chance to pass by ICSR. Outside ICSR, on the just opposite to the admin building, on the outside ICSR, there's a huge termite mound. Termite, I am fascinated by that. Okay. Now, inside the termite mine, the termites build tunnels, small tunnels, and they maintain the temperature of the food at 80 degrees Fahrenheit. 80 degrees. Okay. Maintain the temperature. So what Nick Pierce did was look at the termites and reconstructed the termites for the Eastgate Mall. And he saved 63% on air conditioning, on electricity charges. And that's what we're talking about when we say synthesize, when you're looking at one system and you're combining it another system. So that's intersection for you. That's, synthesizing for you. So therefore, now you look at the definition, mixing of different ideas, influences, or things to make a whole that is some different on you. So all of you who are listening to this presentation, if you are bereft of ideas, if you're not getting any ideas, all you got to do is mix up 2 or 3 ideas. There's a brilliant book called The Medici Effect. The Medici Effect by Johansson. He talks about intersections. This is a great tool. It's a great tool for innovation, great tool for product thinking about new products. So this is the system thinking challenge. So you go to this website called biomimicry.org. That's what I'm learning biomimicry from. You go to biomimicry.org and you have challenges. You have a biomimicry challenge. And if any of you is interested, I would love to be part of the challenge. We can build a new product using that. Just write to me, send me a message on WhatsApp saying, Shiva, I'm interested in biomimicry. I'll be in touch with you. So look at the egg. The egg is the best way to have a waterproof, breathable container, right? Can you build egg? Can you build a tiffin box like an egg? Why do you need a tiffin box? Can you build something like an egg? Can you bring the technology of the egg into packing food? And of course, this is my favorite. The final one is thinking about thinking. I don't want to tell you. I don't want to talk to you now because I'm sure many of you have listened to me on 6 hats. But I've been doing this for the last 20 years now. The 6 hats is a way to organize your thinking. So therefore, the white hat talks about information. The yellow hat talks about values and benefits. The black hat talks about problems. The blue hat talks about managing the thinking. The green hat is about creativity, and the red hat is about feelings and intuition. So it's a brilliant tool for thinking. So when Satya actually on Wednesday when he spoke to me, he said, Shiva, I told him, why don't we do the 6 hats? And I told myself later on, no, I don't want to limit myself to 6 hats. But the 6 hats can be very powerful. 6 hats can be very powerful. If you know the 6 hats, again, if you don't know the 6 hats, forgive me, it's easy to learn. There are 6 hats. Each hat has a specific role. White hat is for information. So when you put on the white hat, you only think about information. Yellow hat is for values and benefits. When you put on the yellow, for instance, if you have a bottle of water, the information about the bottle. How old is it? How much does it cost? How is it shaped? Information. Yellow hat, benefits of the bottle. What are the benefits? It quenches my thirst. I can carry it easily. Portability is a benefit. I'm able to hold it and all that. The black hat is the problems about the bottle. It's made of plastic and therefore non-biodegradable and all that. It can leak also if it's open. The green hat about the bottle. How can I improve the bottle? How can I improve the bottle? I can probably make a handle and hang it on my shoulder. And the red hat. What is my feelings about what? Do I like the bottle? Yeah, I'm okay with the bottle. So that's the 6 hats for you. White hat for information, yellow hat benefits, black hat problems, green hat creativity, red hat feelings, and the blue hat for control. Now the question is, it's a brilliant tool. It's a brilliant tool for thinking. It's a brilliant tool for thinking about your own product, right? You can sit down with your product and say, what's my yellow hat? What's the benefit of this product? What is the problem of this product? What is my feelings about it? How can I improve the product? And it's a deliberate tool. You sit down and you say, you put the tool in front of you, you put your product in front of you, and you say, you think about it. It gives you that all-round ability to think. But there's one use for 6 hats that I have found extremely useful, which is for getting evidence from customers, right? So, for instance, I go into a customer. Now, the problem with talking to customers, is we don't know what question to ask him. But we know how important it is to ask questions to customers in order to discover customers, right? So customer discovery is about asking what is in the mind of the customer. How do I ask? Because the minute you say something, you're a leading question and all that you're told. So how do you avoid those pitfalls? You just do the hats. So I asked the customer, excuse me, sir, what is the information, what is the problem you have with sending your son to school? Then you say, no, the bus is coming late, the auto drivers don't come on time. You've got the problem. Then you say, what are the benefits you see in having a school next door to you? He gives you the benefits. And you get the benefits. You say, so what information do you have about the school that I don't know? That you think I as an entrepreneur, what is the information I should know? You're asking for white hat. And then you finally ask him, so what is your feelings about the school that you are in? I hate the school, I hate the teachers, I hate the curriculum. You understand his feelings. And you can also ask, what do you think should be a good solution? What do you think should be a good solution to improve the way your child feels in school? What hat are you asking? Anyone? What hat are you asking for?
Green hat.
Green, brilliant. See? So can you imagine how easy communication is? All you got to do is use the hats to ask the customer what he thinks, because essentially the 6 hats is the tool to help you understand what is happening in the mind of someone else. That's the tool. It is to extract information from the mind. That is how the tool was built. That is why the tool exists. So it's very easy. So 6 hats is good for team members. 6 hats is good if a team member is, even for depression, even for people who are depressed, constantly doing black hat, black hat, black hat, black hat, you can say, what happened? You'll say, no, yaar, I lost my job. My father doesn't have money. Then you can say, what's yellow hat about that? What's the benefit? What's the benefit of losing a job? I says, what? Benefit of losing my job? He says, no, give me the benefit. And then he says, you know what? Hey, I can go abroad and look for a job there. There you are. You change someone's thinking, change someone's perspective. So, but essentially, I wanted to talk to you about 6 hats in communication, 6 hats in discovering customers. So, finally, like I said, this is what I started with. I want to say there is no finally to thinking. As an entrepreneur, one can never finish the thinking. One can only, you cannot start without thinking. So my only, I am stopping sharing. So my only, can you see me?
Yeah, I can see you, Shiva.
Yeah. So my only plea to you is that thinking is the is the most important thing in entrepreneurship. Forget all your books. Forget all your books on entrepreneurs. Don't do lean. Don't do discipline. Don't do anything else. Become a thinker first. The minute you become a thinker, the tools make sense to you. If you're not a thinker, the lean won't make sense to you. If you're not a thinker, Steve Blank won't make sense to you. If you're not a thinker, discipline entrepreneurship, nothing will make sense to you. So first and foremost, become a very good thinker. And what I touched upon are just small things about thinking. Right? About, I don't know, maybe 50 tools, maybe 100 tools on thinking. Let's make a promise. Let's make a promise to ourselves that we'll become good thinkers first. We'll understand thinking. We will learn thinking tools, and then maybe we'll do entrepreneurship. That's my plea to all of you. So I'm going to stop now. If you have any questions, you ask. Otherwise, I'll hand over to Satya. Satya, all yours.
Sir, I have a... Hello, sir.
Yeah,
yes,
Rakesh, go ahead.
Rakesh Roshan, right?
Yes, sir.
Hi, Rakesh.
Yes, sir. So I was asking, like, there was one skill called intuitive, right? Like intuition. So you said, yeah, something is happening, but I don't know how is it happening. So how do we enhance that skill, that intuitive power?
Yeah. Okay. I think one of the lines in the presentation was be open to intuition, Rakesh.
Yes, sir.
So I would suggest that you read one book. You send me a WhatsApp and I'll send you the names of books that you can read. But more than anything else, be open, believe in your intuition, okay? And tell yourself intuition can be right or wrong. There is no formula for it. Mm-hmm. You just have to be open. You say, for instance, today from now up to 10 o'clock in the night, what are those things that you are learning or thinking about that have no analysis? Okay. Mm-hmm. For instance, look at your mother's face and ask her, are you feeling happy now? Or ask her, are you feeling sad? Just be adventurous, right? And she'll say, no. Why are you reading all this? I'm not even feeling happy or sad. Okay, fine. But you've started your adventure in intuition, right?
Yes.
So that's what. Don't wait for analysis. Analysis is important. That's what you're learning in college. But intuition is something that you take. You become an actually one of my presentation on intuition. I've said an adventure in thinking, because intuition can be right, wrong. That's why we don't want to do it. We don't want to be wrong. But it's okay. So therefore, tomorrow you call your friend, and while he's talking to you, he'll say, "Did I hear you say little something sad?" He said, "No, I was okay." Okay, fine, right? So intuition is that. And then read the book Blink, Rakesh. It's a great book. There is a very nice example of there are a lot of examples. I don't want to get into storytelling now. Okay. Anyone else?
Sir, here actually we did not talk about storytelling. Yeah, just from that itself, I just.
This is like I said, this is beginning of a long series of discussions that we will have with Shiva. And I'm sure you'll all enjoy more. We'll get into many of these topics. And I know Shiva is always a great speaker. So that's how I reserve him for some of the best occasions. But nevertheless, we will be happy to put up some continued series as well.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Any other questions? Did you enjoy what happened or something? Yes? Anyone?
Yes, sir, of course. See, so here we talked about all the different skills that we can possess and we can work on. We all actually have all these skills.
Yeah.
Just that it is secret or it's hidden. Just we need to start realizing that we already have it. So there was one story in Ramayana, right? Hanuman was having such a great power, but he did not realize that he can fly and he can go up in the air. So that is what you are doing. You are making us realize that you have this power, start thinking, and everything else is.
There is one word, I want to leave you with one word, which is very critical to thinking. If you want to write it down on your wall, please go ahead and write it down. It's called deliberate, right? DELIBERATE, deliberate. Deliberate means doing something on purpose. Now, in law, deliberate murder is murdering somebody on purpose, planning the murder. So if you plan someone's murder, you get punished. Sometimes you get killed also because of capital punishment and all that. But it's a very powerful word, right? You're learning the word deliberate. Deliberate means planning. Now, as far as thinking is concerned, you must plan your thinking, because thinking has to be deliberate. You cannot say, you cannot wait for the apple to fall. You have to shake the tree and make the apple fall. And therefore, deliberate means planning something. So one day, you must sit down and say, don't disturb me for the next 10 minutes. I'm going to imagine my business. Deliberate. Don't disturb me for the next 10 minutes. I'm going to empathize with the customer. Deliberate. Don't disturb me for the next 10 minutes. I'm going to be looking at all the connections. Deliberate. So use deliberateness as part of your life. You will start becoming very good thinkers. Don't allow thinking to happen by accident. Thinking is not accidental. It has to be a deliberate, purposeful process, activity. And if one of you has an idea around making thinking more popular in schools and colleges, please write to us. Then we can actually start a company around that. To teach all this to young people, why only young people? Maybe to organizations. It's a great idea. It's a great idea. If any of you is interested, please tell me. We'll start a company around this. Okay.
Sure. I think, Shiva, there is going to be a lot of takers. I can already see a bunch of comments requesting your phone number and contact on WhatsApp, which I am going to share with them so that they can badger you. Nevertheless, I would just like to leave with one final thought. You talked about imagination and intuition, and you also said engineers don't like that. But I mean, a lot of time engineering starts with an intuition, a hunch that this might work.
Okay.
It is just that we forget to go back to that intuition after we go along a long way.
Very good. Okay.
We forget that we had started on a hunch, and we almost assume data is infallible and data is everything after a while. So I think your session, the discussion on intuition goes back to rekindle those thoughts that after all we started with an assumption.
So what would be an intuitive engineer, Satya?
An intuitive engineer is somebody who says that I have a hunch that I can use, look, like you said, take inspiration from anywhere. And I said, I can use a carbon fiber for structural material. Who knows carbon could be used?
Okay.
And then going out and figuring out and doing all kinds of data to build it. And similarly, an intuitive engineer is somebody who looks at a tree and said, this kind of a fruit could be used for making wine.
Brilliant. So in your example, supposing I'm looking at a bridge, okay? Can I use my intuition and say, this bridge will break in 20 years? Is that an opportunity for intuition?
Unfortunately, intuition cannot be used intuition cannot be used there. I mean, there will be a lot of analysis that would have gone into your mind.
Okay.
To look at immediately you see a bridge, there is so many things that registers, the images, the condition of the bridge and all of that really, presents you with a lot of information. The intuition gets suppressed. But if you, for example, look at a nicely painted old building, but you go in there and you somehow feel that this building is not right.
Okay.
You might always end up finding that there is a problem with the building.
Okay.
I'm just giving you an example because that's a very common. Civil engineers have this intuition saying that doesn't matter how much the building is dressed up with a coat of paint, but there is a problem with the building, and they are almost always right.
Okay. Satya, one more question. What branch of engineering did you choose?
I did mechanical engineering.
Okay, so it's a question for the young people here, and of course for you because you're also young. So
I'm always young, Shiva. Doesn't matter.
When you chose mechanical engineering, you chose it with analysis or intuition? You thought?
I would entirely say it was entirely random.
Okay.
So I mean, just to give a perspective here in the group, I got into that branch because I had an older cousin who was in the branch, and I said, if I were to ever fail in any of these courses, there is somebody to help me.
Okay. So yeah, okay, got it. Because sometimes we choose programs because of intuition. That's why.
Just for a number, like what do you think? What percentage of engineers in India choose engineering because of intuition or something?
Satya should answer that.
I would say if you average it out, it's close to 0. But nevertheless, I think learning engineering is like just learning a bunch of tool sets. It's what you do with it. And I had used imagination and the whole concept of visualization extensively in setting up my lab and all of that. I like the way you presented it. You need to see the whole thing in your mind before you make it happen. And the good thing about seeing the whole thing in your mind is subconsciously, as you would know, or a variety of your actions will be aligned towards that vision automatically. So you do, you take a lot of steps that is aligned. So you choose entrepreneurship and you had laid out what it will be like to be an entrepreneur to a reasonable imaginative extent. A lot of actions you do, for example, coming to this webinar today and understanding, a lot of these actions will be guided by those imaginations. So I think it's a very powerful tool to start with.
Great. All right.
All right. I think thanks a lot, Shiva. Thanks for your time, and we love to have you again sometime soon.
Yes, yes. Let's build a series, Thinking and Entrepreneurship.
Thank you. Thanks.
Bye. Bye, all of you.
Bye-bye. Take care, everybody.
Yeah.